Hey everyone, it's Dominic from the Primetime Treasure eBay store and YouTube channel. Thanks for coming by to check out another video. It's been about 24 hours since I made my most expensive and most profitable sale ever on eBay. You're looking at it right there. It's the Amazing Spider-Man number 300 from 1988. What I want to do in this video is take you through why this comic book is worth so much money, how much I obtained it for, how I obtained it, and I want to show you some of the initial offers that came in and why patience and researching comps is so important in maximizing the value of your items, whether or not it's comic books or anything else. So even if you have no interest in comics at all, you still should stick around and watch this video because there are going to be important tips that you can learn regarding reselling that can help you out with your business, regardless of what it is that you sell. So let's start with why this particular book's worth so much money. So there's really four main reasons. Number one is that it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a hot commodity, has always sold well, in my opinion, always will sell well. Even people who don't know a lot about comics realize that. Case in point, go back a few videos ago where I discussed a possible purchase of 33,000 comic books from somebody who admitted that he didn't know much about comics. He was just amassing these collections. It got too big for him and he needed to get rid of it. Well, he knew enough. Even though he doesn't know much about comics, he knew enough to pull out all of the Spider-Man issues, keep those separate, and try to make a profit on those as a later point. And that was one of the factors that helped me decide not to purchase that collection. So number one, again, Spider-Man is valuable. Number two is that this is a centennial issue. It's number 300. Anytime you see a comic book that is issue 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, you get the point. Pick it up because chances are down the road it's going to be worth something, at least something more than, all things being equal, some random issue in the series. So, number 400 would, unless something special happened in issue 325, issue 400 would generally be worth more, and same with issue 300. So that's just a general pointer about comic books. And there's exceptions to all these things, but that's, again, just a general point. Now, number 3 and 4 are more reasons that you really need to be into comic books to understand why this book truly has the value it has. Because number 1 and 2 that I went through, they're smaller factors, but really 3 and 4 are the bigger factors, and that is the comic is drawn by Todd McFarlane, who really started to make himself famous starting with issue 298 when he drew the cover, then he drew 299, and then in issue 300, which you see here, it was the full reveal of a character named Venom. And if you go to the story panel here, you'll see that the title of the story is actually called Venom. Now, a couple things related to this point about Venom. Venom is an iconic character. What does he look like? If you've never seen him before, well, he looks like this right here. He looks kind of like Spider-Man, but he's much more muscular. He's much bulkier. He's got those sharp teeth with that evil grin, very menacing looking. That's Venom. You're gonna see him soon, actually, because he's gonna be the focus of a major motion picture in October of this year. So anything that you could pick up that you see that has Venom on it from now till then, the value on it could go up. So I would suggest adding that to a be on the lookout list. Now, the interesting thing about this picture that I'm showing you right here is that this is from the last panel of Amazing Spider-Man number 299. Yet issue 300, which you see here, is considered the first appearance of Venom. Now, how could that possibly be when in issue 299 the last panel shows what Venom is going to look like? Well, the reason is that collectors really tend to consider this what's known as a cameo appearance. It's like a foreshadowing of what it's going to be and of what's going to happen in the next book. It's not part of the actual story sequence right then and there. For the full character reveal, the full story reveal, that's generally among comic collectors what is considered the first appearance book. Although, again, there is debate about this because technically this really is the first appearance, but again, it's not the first full story appearance. And you'd have to go over here inside the book to see the initial reveal of the character in full story mode, which is right here. You see him swinging down from the vine there, and staring at him is Spider-Man in the black alien costume. So it could be confusing to people who don't know anything about comics because they both look similar. You're wondering who's Spider-Man, who's not. But you could even see the size difference there in the arms between the Spider-Man looking up and the Venom character swinging down. You could also see this is the first full reveal of Eddie Brock as being the Venom character. So there's a lot of things that happen in this story that make it important. You also see the art. The art inside and outside is done by Todd McFarlane. And when Todd McFarlane started drawing these books, I remember as a kid, we were blown away by his art. I mean, when he came out, it just took everyone by storm. Now, Todd McFarlane was drawing comic books before Spider-Man. In fact, he was drawing Batman comic books. But it really wasn't until he came over to draw the Spider-Man covers that he became so famous. And the main reason for it is how he drew the webs. You look at these webs here, they're very intricately detailed. They became to be known as spaghetti webs. And it really just fascinated people, especially here. Like if you see this part, this lower corner here, on how he put all that detail and intricacy into the webs. And you know, he did that with his characters too, with the wide set eyes of Spider-Man there. He really altered his appearance. You know, he really got the features of the character well. Mary Jane, I mean, he made Mary Jane, which is Spider-Man's girlfriend, look like she never had looked before in comic books. I mean, trust me, there were a lot of guys who were cuddling up with Spider-Man comic books at night with Mary Jane in it because they were just blown away again by how Todd McFarlane portrayed her in the books. He gave her a much more sexy appearance that she had really not had before that. So if you go over here, you'll see this is issue 298 and 299. They look very similar, but they are different books. 298 is the first time Todd McFarlane drew the cover for Spider-Man. 299, this is both of these are actual valuable comic books because this is the first cameo appearance of Venom in that back cover that I showed you earlier. So if you ever see 298, 299, I would advise picking those up as well because those are also worth a considerable amount of money. You know, if you go over here, just to show you, in issue 297, before McFarlane got involved in drawing the character, I mean, just look. I mean, you can see here, Spider-Man, he doesn't have a great deal of detail to him. In addition, if you look at the webbing, you know, there's really nothing special to it. It's just, you know, kind of crisscrossy, nothing really that really stands out about it. But then again, you go back and you compare it to what Todd McFarlane was doing with those webs over here. I mean, again, it was just, even, I remember picking this issue up as a kid and looking at how Todd McFarlane drew Spider-Man's finger. I mean, just look at the fingers and the detail he put into that and the buildings in the background. I mean, he was just on a level that no one really was at the time. It really was just an amazing, and still amazing, just looking back at the art. So those are the reasons why this book is worth so much money. So let's go over and take a look at some of the comps. And the first thing I want to show you here is what you're looking at are comps for graded comic books. So these are books that people send away to a company, most commonly CGC, and CGC will take the book, grade it, and they'll give it a number on a scale of 0 to 10, It's almost impossible to get a 10, but some people will get a 10 on some books. I have seen it before, but it's rare. But what most people are realistically looking for is to get a 9.8, which would be near mint plus. It's almost a perfect comic in terms of condition. Now, what you see up top here as an incredible comp is 298, 299, and 300 together, graded by CGC as a 9.9. So they put it inside these plastic slabs, and then they put the number on top of the book. I'll see if I could show it to you right here just by clicking on it. And you could see this sold, those 3 books, as a 9.9 because there's not other 9.9s known to be around. Those 3 sold together for $125,000. $125,000. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. My computer's acting a little slow here, so rather than delay things, I'm not going to zoom up on the entire book, but you get the point about the type of money that could be involved in certain comic books depending on the grade that gets associated with it and which exact ones you have. Even for modern books, remember, these books came out in 1988. We're not talking about the first appearance of Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy 15. We're talking about, again, a relatively modern book. So let's go back to some of those other comps that I had up here. And those will show some 9.8s. So these are more realistic what you could get in terms of a grade if it's in near mint plus condition. And you could see here that the ones with the yellow tabs, they've been signed. That's what the yellow tab means. So if you could get the book, it's in near mint condition, and you get it signed by Todd McFarlane or Stan Lee, you could get about $3,000 for this book. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. So, right there, for example, number 300, signed by Stan Lee, 9.8, sold for about $3,000, little over when you factor in, about right about 3,000, round it right up to $3,000. So let's go to some that are not signed. So ones that are not signed will be in blue. The ones that are signed will be in yellow. So that's one of the things, if you're not into comics, you'll know about these slabs. When you look at these plastic slabs, that's just a quick thing that you can figure out. Now, by the way, if you see a slab that is purple up top and it's by CGC, that means the comic book has been restored in some way. So there's been something that's been done to try to fix the book or adjust some kind of problem that was associated with it. So just make sure you check into that if you ever see the purple background. But going down here, you're going to see that some of these 9.8s not signed will sell for $2,750. Again, these all have to be graded. There's costs associated with this. And you really need to get the book at a good price if you think that you want to send it off for grading and you're pretty confident you could get this type of grade out of it. Now, what I did with my book in looking at it is a few things. One, I noted that it definitely was in the near mint to near mint plus range. Was I 100% confident I'd be able to get a 9.8 out of it? I wasn't 100%. You have to look very, very subtly on the book, but there are a few spine creases on it. They're very, very small, very minimal. However, one of the other things you'll notice on it is if you zoom up to the left here, you see what's known as a sawtooth edge of the book. And about half of the Amazing Spider-Man 300 issues were known to have this production issue where the edge of the book has this sawtooth kind of cut look to it. It's just basically how it came out of the production mill. Now, it's not something that's been known to have any significant effect on grading, but just my luck, I'll send it off and I'll go to get it graded, and I'll get somebody who gives me a 9.6 on it instead of a 9.8. I'd have to take the risk. And you might wonder, what does that matter really, a 9.6 versus a 9.8? I'm going to show you how much a little decimal point change affects the price of the book. So, you can see here, a bunch of these 9.8s are coming into this 2,000 plus range. Let's move down to 9.6. 9.6 here, you can see we're below 2,000, and that's with a signature. Okay, best offer was accepted. Let's go down some more to some 9.6s. Here's a 9.6 signed, $1,350. That's a big difference from what I showed you earlier when we're in the $3,000 range for a 9.8. That's the difference that those two little points make. Why? Because people want to show off that they have the 9.8. That's why someone is willing to pay $125,000 for those three books, because they could say that they have the 9.9. So a lot of it is about bragging rights and people wanting to show these off as trophies, and they'll display them. So the 9.6s are not going to go for as much as the 9.8, and it's a significant decrement in terms of pricing. So I'm going to go down some more here, and I'm going to start moving off of the slabbed books, the books that they put inside the plastic, which is also known as a slab, once they're graded. So let's look at ones that are not graded. There have been some that have gone up to around $1,000 in near mint plus condition, which is what I consider my book to be. Again, this is an auction format. Now, while this shows that these were sales that were completed in auction format, what I don't know 100% is if the person actually wound up paying for the item. Because as you remember from one of my prior experiences, I sold something for a high price on an auction. It shows as a completed purchase if someone looked it up, but the person actually stiffed me and never paid. So I've got to take that risk that might happen with this book. So for that reason, I didn't put it up on auction. I didn't want to put a reserve on it. I want to do a little bit more research into it and figure out where would be a price that I'd be real comfortable with in terms of just flipping it to someone who may themselves want to invest in getting it slabbed and taking a chance in terms of getting a 9.8 on it. So if we move down some more and we get into some of the ungraded books, and see, we've got some graded ones here. And by the way, you can see here we've got books coming back graded as 9.6 that are selling for $832 plus shipping. So, you got to anticipate worst case scenario. You got to be competitive with other people who have graded 9.6s. So a lot of 9.6s selling in that range. So while someone did sell 9.6 for higher, for over 1,000, more of them, and more realistically, is you're going to get under $1,000 for a graded 9.6. And I've got to factor that into my mind, that I could very well send this off. It comes back a 9.6. It takes me about a month to, between sending it out and getting it back. I've got to pay shipping fees to get it out there and back. I've got to pay grading fees. So I got to invest some money into this. And I've got to really, really be convinced that I'm going to make a heck of a lot more money grading it compared to if I don't. And I wasn't positive, absolutely sure, or sure as I could be, that it was going to come back a 9.8 as opposed to a 9.6. So that's what, see this research here? This is absolutely critical to me coming up with a pricing plan for this. So I'm going to go down some more. And what you're going to see here is eventually we're going to get into some book. In fact, you know what? we're going to take off, just to make this a little easier, we're going to take off the word CGC. So this is a little search term. If you don't want something to come up, just put a dash sign and then the word that you don't want to show up anymore in the listing, and it won't show up anymore. So we'll get rid of anything with CGC in it. CGC, again, is the company that certifies and grades the books. So let's see here. So there we go. Amazing Spider-Man 300 near mint, $530. That's on auction. $530 a person got out of it. Here's another one, went for $555 with two other issues, number 254 and a Secret Wars issue. So, you know, and that's with Amazing Spider-Man 300. So what I decided to do is I said, you know what? I'm going to put this up for $750. That's the midpoint between some people who are getting 500 and some people who are supposedly getting 1,000. That gives me some wiggle room with negotiation. Ideally, where I'd like to be, I mean, I'd love to get the 750, but I'm willing to go down to approximately $600 for the book. So now you understand why I put that price on it. Let me show you where I found it. I was actually digging in what amounts to be a hoard. It is a combination of, it's a bizarre combination of collectibles and garbage and paperwork that is just like bills and stuff, and just gross stuff. I mean, you had to have gloves and a respirator to be down in this place. It was really something to be seen. This is one small snippet of what the place looked like. So I'm going through this stuff. Now, the first day I was there for 8 hours in a different location of this place. The second day is the day I found this book. And I found it right around here. I was standing right here. I'm going through this heap of stuff bit by bit, and I wind up finding a file folder. And I open the file folder, and inside of it is a clasp envelope. There's nothing on the clasp envelope that's marked, doesn't say there's anything in it. I literally open it up, and right there is Amazing Spider-Man 300. I couldn't believe it. I slowly took it out of its protective casing because it was in a bag, and I slowly looked through it to make sure there wasn't anything wrong with it. And I'm looking for rips, I'm looking for damage, I'm looking for signs of mold, and incredibly, I can't find any major flaw with the book. A few little spine dings like I showed you, but I'm sitting there shocked that I just found Amazing Spider-Man 300 in the bottom of this heap. Now, there were lots of other collectibles at this place and lots of comic books, and that's how I wound up getting there, is because I have relationships with people in the community who know when they find comic books around to give me a call, and that I would be interested in going over and helping with the clear out and investing a considerable amount of time there, with the benefit for me being that I'll be able to access these items with zero competition around me. In fact, I'll have people who are helping with the estate clearing who are also looking for these items for me because they know what I'm looking for, and then they'll put them aside and I'll go look at them as well. So I basically have people helping me who I don't even have to pay in terms of for that type of work. I mean, at the end, I'm paying for the product, but I don't have to pay for them to help me because they're just doing it as part of the process as well as trying to clear the estate. So that's where I found it, was right over there. Now, in terms of how much I paid for it, well, really, I paid pennies for it. And you're probably going to say, what do you mean you paid pennies for it? Well, what I wound up pulling out of this area here which was much bigger than what you could see in this picture, and other areas over the course of 4 days, was approximately 2.5 truckloads of material. We're talking thousands of comic books. We're talking all sorts of collectible vintage NBA character shirts, all sorts of vintage toys. They just wanted to get rid of the stuff and wanted some money to help them with some expenses. So we agreed on a price for everything for the first 2 days, which was the 2 main truckloads, for $750. The third day was $60 and the fourth day was $25. So total winds up to be slightly over $800. So if you could imagine, if I could get most of that back by selling one item, I'm going to do incredibly well with this collection. And that's what I wound up doing. This book, as you saw, eventually sold. Now, it didn't sell for the $675 price that you see here. It wound up eventually selling for $575. I did take a best offer. Now, initially, you could see here's my email back to August 23rd. I had an initial offer come in for $400. Now, how many of you would resist just taking the $400? A lot of people would just sell it. But remember, I know from doing the comp research here that that's a low offer for that type of item. So I just rejected it. The person came back at $475, rejected it again. The person came back at $500. At that point, I countered the person at around $600 or a little bit more than $600. And the person said, wrote to me that there's no way they're paying more than $500 for the comic. So I said, okay. And that was it with that person. Then, as you can see here, someone else came along, offered me $300, which I obviously declined because that's clearly a low ball for the item. And then you can see up here, September 7th, I have another person offer me $450 for the item, which I again passed on. So last night, someone offered me $500 for the book. So here we are, back to where we were on August 23rd. And at that point, I had lowered the price of the book. I had started it initially at $750, and every week I lowered it 25 bucks. So went down to $725, then it went down to $699, then I put it down to $674. And each time you could see the number of watchers was going higher and higher and higher. By the time it sold for let's see, our final price here was $575. You could see here I had 16 watchers on it by the time that it sold. So I counter offered the person. I said, you know what? The difference between $674 and $500, I'm comfortable saying let's do $575. That's pretty close to the $600. So I countered at $575. The person accepted it and paid within hours. Now, along the way, I have sold about 12 other items from that collection of thousands of items that I purchased. And for just those 12 items, which include some of those NBA character t-shirts, I've made over $250 just from those 12 items. So that puts me here at really getting all of my money back from the first two times that I went out and purchased items at that house for $750 from that estate, once you factor in all the fees and the shipping and all that type of stuff. So I've pretty much made my money back at this point. I have a little bit ways to go for some money that I invested into some additional product on the third and fourth day, but literally I have about $50 more to make back at this point, and then I am full profit the rest of the way. And that's how I do it. That's how I wind up having a successful eBay business, is by putting myself in these types of situations where I could buy these large lots of items for deeply discounted prices through social connections that I make in my community. Now, you've seen many of my haul videos. That's certainly not how I obtain all of my items. You've seen me go to garage sales and estate sales, but this is a key aspect to what I do right here. So apologize for the length of the video, but I really wanted to take you inside the nuts and bolts of this to show you how it all works and how it all breaks down. If you like the video, please make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Need about 18 more subscribers to crack 1,000. So I'd love to see you be one of the first 1,000 subscribers, or maybe the 1,000th subscriber. So make sure you also come by to my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. The link to that is down in the description section. Be sure to leave a comment or a question if you have one, and I look forward to seeing you at the next video. I'll see you later, everybody, and I hope this was beneficial for all of you. Take care, everyone.